here in Long Island, October 2nd, hunting out of Beagle Club, and it's the afternoon. It's around like 3 o'clock. I hunted this morning, didn't see much, so I'm back out here and I'm just waiting to see what happens.
Overabundant deer tend to really alter forest composition and structure. So left unchecked, without a predator in the system, a deer population will just keep expanding to unsustainable levels for the forest that they live in.
We've lost biodiversity, we've lost woody stems, there's almost no recruitment in seedlings from our overstory trees, and the plants that remain in some of these areas are basically either unpalatable or poisonous to deer. And so they've really had an enormous impact on the floristic vegetational structure.
Deer are what's called a keystone species, which means that they alter the environment in ways that affect a lot of other different organisms. And so if we could reduce the population of deer around Ithaca, that would ideally alleviate some of the problems people closer to Ithaca have. Usually in a natural setting, without vegetable gardens and flower beds and things like that, and cornfields, you would see around 15, under 20 deer per square mile. And so in areas where they get a lot of food from humans, agricultural areas or suburban neighborhoods, they can reach over 100 deer per square mile. And so then at that level, they're really destructive to the habitat. When communities like Cayuga Heights decide that they have a deer overpopulation problem, it's usually because of the deer vehicle collisions. That's number one pretty much across the Northeast or anywhere communities have overabundant deer, because it's a human safety problem. So, and it's been demonstrated that collisions with deer increase as the local population of deer increases.
One of the bigger concerns that we have recently is the increase of Lyme's disease because of deer ticks. And I actually got Lyme's disease myself. Several of my staff, volunteers, friends that I know. It's quite a common occurrence. Actually, the health department here in Tompkins County has recorded an increase over the past 5 years in Lyme's disease of 1,089%. So it is a really serious concern.
The changing of farmland, abandoned farmland, so that's growing into really great habitat for deer. They like what's called early successional forest, and so that's the young forest with lots of saplings, lots of food for them. They're all about forest openings or edges. That's the kind of food that they like. So we're elevating the food and cover that they have, and we're also protecting them, because now with the low density housing in suburban neighborhoods, there aren't hunters. And obviously, we don't have the predators that historically New York had, cougars and mountain lions and things, and wolves.
When that buck first walks in, it's probably like unreal, because you're waiting there, you're sitting there. You're waiting for it to come in to like a certain range, because with a bow you can only shoot like 10 yards to 50 yards. And it gets close enough, you pull the bow back, you take a deep breath, you let it half out, and at that moment, you're in like shock, and you're shaking, and in that one moment, you just freeze and everything slows down, and you see the arrow hit the deer, and it's like unreal. God. Oh my God. What I most like about hunting is being out in the nature and seeing animals in their natural habitat. And also the rush when you see that big buck coming in or a doe, and it's called buck fever, and there's nothing like it. You're shaking. It's just like tradition to me and my family. My dad does it, I do it. and it's a big part of me.
This issue is really interesting because really there's no right or wrong answer. It's a lot about people's perception of deer and what level of property damage they're willing to live with. You know, over the last several decades, a lot of people looking into the possibility of reintroducing wolves, especially to the Adirondack Park, because sort of the biggest factor that limits wolf success is the density of roads. So there actually are few places in New York at this point that are roadless enough for a wolf population to succeed.
We also have lethal deer management that spans from firearm hunting, archery hunting, even nuisance control. We've actually begun implementing some of that here on campus just in the past 12 months.
I feel like that when they come at me with those, like, that slander or like bad-mouthing me, I just look at it and brush it off my shoulder because I know that what I'm doing is not a bad thing. It's a part of like my tradition and my family's tradition, and I really don't let it get to me, but they can have their opinion.
But as far as, yeah, reintroducing wolves like they did in Yellowstone or even mountain lions, it's not something we'll do, and likely not something the public would want to see done.